Hey YouTube, this is Spec and I've filmed this intro about 3 times now because the whole status of it has changed. What a shock! Real quick, usually when I create a video, I have it all planned out in my head. I see the whole video all the way through, and then I just try my best to implement it. It never really works out perfectly. So the idea for this video initially was to harvest some plants from around my aquariums, sort of give you like an aquarium update and a harvest, and also plant them in the new tank, but it's just too big a video. So today, what we're going to do is we're going to go around and we're going to harvest plants. So here's the thing, it's been a long time since I've trimmed my plants, and I haven't done anything. I haven't tried to sell them or given them away or attended any club meetings or anything. I haven't had any reason to give anything away, so I've sort of accumulated a lot. In some cases, there's some tanks that I just kind of want to move into a new direction. And so a harvest is definitely in order. So today, in this video, it's going to be the harvest. And we're going to go around, it's going to be kind of an update and a big trim on some of your favorite tanks, like the Fluval Flex 32 gallon. Like the sump in here. Remember, I planted the sump at the beginning of the year. We're going to trim that. We're going to look at this 42 gallon over here on the other side. That guy. We're also going to take a look at some improvements I've made to the Tiny Island tank. And let me tell you, it's looking full. I've got to trim some Anubias out of there. What else? I'm going to introduce you to the first plant I've bought for an aquarium in a while. There was something else. And something else that I forgot. Most of this I've filmed already, and I narrate a little bit in there. I'll try to figure out what's better, narration or music. Sometimes it's just too long. I'm going to have time codes for every single aspect of this video, so feel free to skip to the part that interests you the most, or watch it all the way through and click like to fill my heart with joy. And with all that said and done, it's time to begin the harvest. And this is my first stop. You can see how much of a trim I need because there's absolutely no light reaching the bottom. If you're sitting here in person, you can actually see stuff going on in there, but it's pretty dark, as you can tell from the other side. And note that I have changed some things around. This could be an update video just for that. But I've added this lid, which has been really amazing. I've got a little food hole right here. I've got a place to mount this light. I've got a much better plant light. I've had a lot of algae issues in here, and I'm hoping that the better light will help these things grow. I've added a couple of Mexican dwarf crayfish, and they are guarding things, but this is what we're after today. We're going to get some of this Anubias out. Alright, let's see what we got here. That's a bit better. Let's see. So when you trim your Anubias, Anubias grow along a rhizome, which is like a stem. A real thick stem that runs down the middle of this. So you can see it right through there, that stem. And what you're going to do is just kind of pick a spot along that and cut it. And then you can pull that part out. Roots may very well be attached to things. As you can see, it gets really rooty down here at the bottom. You got a nice little plant. You even have a little flower going on this one. This plant is beautiful and perfect, mostly. It might have some mild deformation in the leaves where it's like gotten pressed up against the glass and stuff. But for the most part, this is fine. But if you're trimming one of these, inevitably you're going to break off some leaves. It's really easy to trim these off. You can just kind of pop these off. So if you've got some that are looking bad or might not be too good, you can easily kind of pop these off, and they will save all that good energy for the healthy ones to grow. Alright, so definitely want to go and get another side over here. Pull this one out. It is heavily rooted in here, so I'm probably going to make a little bit of a mess. And here we can get a little checkup on that Wabikusa ball with the little Wabikusa bricks that I made. They seem to be holding together. I wouldn't I wouldn't tempt fate all too much on here, but they are forming a nice bond. I think these roots from the Anubias have made their way almost all the way through them, and it's probably kind of helping hold its continuity here to hold these together. I'm going to trim a little bit around the edges of this, but I don't want to pull this part apart too much if I can help it. I just want to go a little ways in. I'll end up with some smaller pieces. So these that are growing down here where I don't really want them to be, I'm going to just trim them off. And we'll look around and grab anything else. Oh, it's actually growing out of the tank. It's a pretty nice little piece though. I think I'm going to nab that. Alright, that's the first one down. Now we have the Steampunk Tank. So I've actually just done a trim. I've pulled out a bunch of cardinal plants and I've planted even more. Well, I tried to save some of the abuse from that other tank and it ended up in here. It's still kind of recovering and stuff, but I've got a couple of nice pieces of abuse and of course moss and stuff that sort of powers this filter here, but the Anubias I want's actually in here. So this stuff's been growing pretty good, and I think it's time for a trim. This thing it's hard to see, but it's absolutely full in there. So we're going to pull some of that out. Alright, let's see what we're working with here. Huh. Pretty nice little pieces. A lot of holes in this one compared to the other one, but I might trim some of those off and it'll still be a nice little piece there. The next tank in need of a cleaning is my 42-gallon 7 ports tank. It's got a really healthy batch of Anubias all through the middle here. And I want to tone that down. This is a little bit bigger species, so I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to use it on this. If not, then I'll replace it down into the sump with what I'm about to pull out of there. But I've got to tone this down a little bit because it's absolutely drowning out everything else in here. I'm going to do exactly what I did before. Get down in there, figure out where my scissors are. Just going to take off piece at a time until I get this trimmed down. See, this is a lot bigger than those other pieces. There are a few of these that grow up a little too close to the surface, so these are kind of burnt out and stuff. But it looks like other parts of it are alright. Maybe they haven't been out as long, so stuff like that I could just kind of trim it up and keep the usable part. See, that looks like a whole different species. This could be that golden coin or maybe something else, or maybe it's just the growth was retarded in some way to keep it from growing the way it should, but we'll see. Sometimes when they're clustered in, when it gets too tight, you'll see stuff like that. Getting somewhere. I'd really like to be able to see some more of the middle of this tank. This area that hasn't gotten light in forever. That was quite a big chunk. Look at that. Even with a pretty aggressive trim, this thing's still chock full of plants. There's plenty more if I want to come back to the well and get some more, but I got a couple more stops to make. So I guess I'll leave this one alone for now. Alright, so over here on the side of the 42 gallon, I've got this plant that's grown up the side. I have trouble remembering the name of this plant. Let's see if I can put it there, if I do remember it. It's probably hard to see. It's been pretty effective at blocking the sunlight from the window, but it's kind of starting to creep into the front of this tank and take over. And since it's grown in it's a big plant, and it's grown in such a nice straight line through here with this runner, I'm going to attempt to pull this runner, like right here, leave most of this, or leave the back end of this plant here, back in the background where it belongs, but take everything that's grown out of it out. So I'm snapping that rhizome right there. I'm going to see how extensive this root system is and try to pull this out. Looks like it's gone under the rocks a little bit too. Oh, but it's coming out. Okay. This will be a nice straight background for the new tank. Oh, it looks like I'm pulling up the other side too. Oh, there's the part I missed. Okay. So stick this back in the ground. Hopefully that'll recover and just resume growing the way it was before. And this I'll take to the new tank after a little cleaning off. Here's a look at how we're doing so far. A lot of water in here, so it's kind of heavy, but we've got this is all Anubias. Just about a bucket full of Anubias. We could do a little better. Our next stop is the Megaflex, and it's looking really good. As you can see, it's got quite a bit of Anubias in there. Now, this actually gets really crammed up together and starts looking bad. Starts having a lot of dead leaves and stuff, so I do periodically come in here and trim it. But it's been a little while since I've given it a big trim, and it looks like it's needed. It needs it really bad. Now these leaves actually get kind of deformed. They're too crunched up together, too close. Just too much growth all in there together. But so I do go in here every now and then and trim some of this out, and it's a little bit overdue. It's time to do it. It tends to shade out this. This is crypt parv down at the bottom. And in fact, this whole tank really needs new substrate. I'm thinking seriously about pulling this crypt parv out also and using it in the new tank, and then putting something else in here when I eventually redo this thing. Not a bad haul of Anubias there. I've got basically a 5-gallon bucket full. Haven't gone for anything else yet. I think I probably will call it a night and pick this up tomorrow. Get the rest of the plants. Okay, so it's been about a day on the Megaflex, and you can see it looks a lot different now. I've got these crypts over here on the side that are kind of looking a little funny. All the roots are exposed and stuff like that. I was going to pull this crypt parv possibly out of the bottom of it, but I decided to leave it. I think what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to take these tall crypts and maybe use them in the new tank, and maybe resubstrate some of the bottom of this. I might leave that for another time. I'm going to pull this stuff out for now and give this stuff plenty of room. Some of these crypts have such an advanced root system that they can choke out smaller areas. So I've got these kind of crypt parv, which have done really well in the past. They look like they're on the brink right now. I've just put some root tabs and stuff under there, but I wonder if maybe pulling these out will give them a little bit more room to kind of spread out and stuff along the bottom. So I'm going to pull those out now. Oh, yeah, this one's going to be a challenge. This is the 16 gallon. The ultimate plan for this one is to break it down. It's been overrun with algae for quite a while. I've been plucking it off and cleaning it up. I've got some baby goodeds in here that I got from the fish club, and they are ultimately what's going to go in the fluval shaker tank. So it'll be a tank just for these endangered goodeds, and we'll talk more about these guys later. What we're looking at right now is this. This is Crypt Parv. It's one of my more successful batches of it, but it does have quite a bit of algae in here that I'm going to have to painstakingly peel out. So I'm removing every bit of this that I can. I've had mixed results doing this, but I'm going to take all of this out. I'd like to do a tank without a whole bunch of stem plants. So I don't know if I'm adding any of these stem plants up there, but as you can see, like, the hair algae is just off the chart. So I've got to get in here and clean all of that up too. There's some Anubias in here. I don't think I'm going to need any more. I've already got a 5-gallon bucket full, so I'll probably just leave this Anubias in here for now and figure out what to do with that later. All right, so my plan for this stuff, I've got a bucket down here, and the bucket's got a little bit of water in it. There's no other plants or anything. These are going in their own bucket, so I can sit and sort these out after I do it. Let's get to plucking. I've neglected this tank a little bit because I know it's going down soon. There's no real excuse for that. I haven't neglected the fish. I think the fish are doing fine. In fact, they don't mind this algae and stuff at all. There's all kinds of stuff that they like to eat growing in there. But I haven't made it aesthetically pleasing to any degree. So probably first thing with these is get as much of this out in the tank as I can. While I got this holding it out. So I'm going to do a quick little cleanup, in-tank cleanup of the stuff. Sometimes it's easier to clean this stuff up if there's a bunch of it you can grab onto. Never seems to last very long, unfortunately. I have a feeling once I start plucking this out, you're not going to be able to see much very soon. The roots don't go super deep. Might be enough to stir this up where you can't see very well. So what I'm going to do in here is I'm going to take my finger and I'm going to try to work up and get underneath it if I can, instead of trying to pull up, because those leaves will pop off. And we've got quite a little mat going here. So I'm going to try to get underneath it. As you can see, I'm going all the way down to the bottom of the tank almost. Ooh. Yeah, this is all kind of coming up. This one mat. It's very thick. It's been very productive. Oh wow, we're really making a mess. Oh, I'm sorry, fishes. Hopefully they won't mind too much. Ooh. And I've got a big glob of dirt in my bucket too. Now that I can see nothing, I'll see if I can't get the rest of this. Probably a good time for a water change, wouldn't you think? Oh gosh. This is the super fun part. I'm going to put this in here so I don't end up with gravel in my sink. But I've got all the plants I pulled out. The Crypt Parv I pulled out here. I've got a bucket of clean dechlorinated water right here. And I'm going to do a little prep right here to see if I can remove as much algae as possible. There's a lot of plants. Ended up being really quite a few plants in there. It's a little hard to tell in the muck. But all right, let's get started. Okay, so after going through this for a few minutes, I see that what's going to really work out best for me, most of this is actually pretty clean once you pull it out and pull it out from around. Like some of these might have been under logs or someplace where a lot of algae didn't grow. When I've tugged on these roots, you know, they just kind of will pull up the whole chain, and you can see how they grow there in this like chain formation. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to break these big mats. Like I've got a mat like this. I'll break them into these small little chain segments and see if I can kind of plant them all together, keeping some of this roots, in fact most of all of this root structure if I can. And I don't know, that might come back to haunt me. The samples I got had the roots kind of trimmed like so, and I might end up doing that too. I'm not sure what'll be easier to plant, but I'm going to kind of experiment a little bit. One thing you can do to make it a little bit easier is to twist it like that. Just make sure you don't grab a little plantlet along with your twisting. But you can kind of twist them together like that, and that makes a little nice consolidated bunch to stick in the ground. Something to hold on to. The big thing with a lot of these is they don't they don't want to stay in the substrate too well. That's one reason I wanted to use that aqua soil substrate, is because I knew I'd want to plant some little tiny plants like this, and especially if they don't have a big root structure yet, they don't want to stay in the ground. So if they get any algae or anything, you go picking at them at all, you just pull them right out. So they're a great little carpeting plant if you can get it to work. Alright, so I got quite a bit of crypt parv. Maybe not as much as I kind of thought when I was pulling it all out, but I think I've got plenty enough to do what I need to do in my tank. So that chore is finally done.
And lastly, we have the sump. Now, if you remember at the beginning of the year, I pulled this extra piece of my sump out and sort of planted it out. I've got effectively I guess a refugium is what you would call it when you got a whole planted tank attached to your filter. But water is kind of trickled in from the main filter into here, and then it overflows back on out. I've got a lot of this particular plant here. I'm going to end up removing a lot of it, but what I'm after inside are these crypts. Now, I'm not sure if this is Crypt Wendetti. I kind of think it is the Cryptocore Wendetti. This is another one that I just keep going back to the well for because it grows so readily in my tanks and stuff. It was really interesting farming it this way. This is the first time I've tried to do it in a real organized way, and it was nice to pull out these nicely formed plants that kind of weren't sprawling and stuff. Everything else, when I go to harvest it, I'm really getting a lot of junk along with the good. These plants were all really nicely formed and good little stalks. And it looks like I'll have plenty of room to replant in here later. Now here we see what I mail ordered. This is a different type of crypt parv or parva, and it's like supposedly a micro or a mini version of it. It didn't look all that small compared to the regular, but I'm going to make a little patch of it right in the middle, and we'll see how it compares to the others as we plant them side by side.
All right, so it's the next day, and this one took a lot less damage than the others. It's definitely a lot brighter down here. I'm not having to alter the exposure just so I can get some light in there. Some of the roots are looking a little disheveled and stuff like that, but not too bad. And I'm seeing a lot more light here on these lower areas with these tiny Anubias that I'm trying to propagate. Of course, here it's looking a little less congested. We've got some sort of yellow leaves I somehow missed that I could probably trim out, but it's looking pretty good. Nice little filter there. And over here at the Steampunk Tank, you can see it's also doing just fine and none the worse for wear. Okay, so there's a lot more room in there now. The plants in here do grow extremely slow. They're basically they're in a box with a little tiny hole at the top that gets some sunlight and this waterproof light that's in there. Hopefully they just continue to grow slowly and look good in there. I've left a little bit of room. It looks like there's a little bit more I could have trimmed out of there, but I'm kind of scared to pull too much out. All right, next tank. So this tank got a slight trim. I went in here and I took care of some of this, I think this is Luigia. I didn't bother filming that, and usually what I do is I'll trim this off, I'll pull it all out, and then I'll take the tops and I'll replant them. I didn't feel like doing all that after all the work I'd done the other day or the past couple of days, so I just trimmed the tops of this off just to kind of give me a little bit of time. It was starting to block out the light, and we'll add that into the new tank. This tank seems a lot brighter and a lot more interesting now. I basically removed a lot of this side. I removed a lot from kind of all around except for maybe the back corner over here. But yeah, a lot more light in the front now, a lot more area on the side here, a lot more swimming space, a free swimming space kind of in these little areas over here. So it's kind of interesting. You still can't tell I have any wood. There's actually a whole lot of hardscape and stuff in here besides these cool rocks that I can see again. But yeah, it's still pretty thick there towards the middle. I might have to go in again sometime later on. I hate to do it all at once, but I'll probably come in and chop the other side off later on and give it room to kind of expand and grow in there. Trimming that stuff on the side too, like kind of reclaim this whole angle. So I'll be able to see in there again. It'll be getting a little bit more sun, so hopefully it won't be an algae issue, but maybe it'll help some of this other stuff grow. Alright, here is the Megaflex. One day after all the final pulling of plants and stuff, there's still a few things in here I probably need to clean up. Although we still have a major Anubias section. I've done pretty drastic trim on the sides here, so I left a lot of room to grow out on either side of this. I've also decided to keep all of these crypts, and what I think I'll do is when I finally break down the 16 gallon, I'll import the rest of those crypts into here. But I think I need to re-substrate, so I'm probably going to add a layer of substrate just over the top of this. I haven't decided if I want to pull all of this out, just redo all the substrate, and then put it back in. The Anubias is really easy to do that with. This is not so much. It's going to be a lot of replanting and stuff, but I could potentially pull it out and put it back. I'm not sure if it will like that as much as maybe just putting some substrate over the top. If you got an opinion on that, let me know. This tank took the biggest hit. I've gone in and cleaned things up a little bit. All the animals seem okay. I did give it a fairly decent water change after I finished yesterday. It's still quite the mess. Like, there's a lot of algae and stuff to pull out. There's a lot of stuff to clean. Got a bunch of this Bacopa I could probably recover and stuff. But breaking this down is a task for another day. And in fact, I want to keep it up until I can get these goods out and into the new tank. So I've got to let the other tank cycle up a little bit. I did end up missing just a few little areas in here. There's just a little bit more crypt parva to pull out, but I will put that in the Megaflex when I go to work on that and when this gets broken down, which I guess will happen the same time. Hey, look, it's me, and some time has passed. Now it's the end of the video. And I wanted to tell you guys that I'm already planting. I'm already working on the next video, which is me planting this tank. I've already done part of it by now because I need to get those plants right into the bottom of the tank. The Anubias and stuff that you've seen collected, that 5-gallon bucket full of Anubias that you just saw me collect, that is it's getting lidded up. So I put a lid over the top of it. I filled it up with water, so all that stuff is safe in there. And that's going to be part of a new project. I haven't decided how I want to add that in. If I want to do it all as part of the planted tank, or do like an A and a B for the planted tank. Let me know in the comments down below if you have an opinion on that. Should I combine it into one longer video or make a couple of short videos? I want to know what you guys think about that sort of thing. And finally, if you would please subscribe. I'd love to see you again. Click over here for more videos about this shaker tank and the whole project as a whole. And up here, something YouTube thinks you'll like. Until next time, follow your bliss, keep a clean tank, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.